Michael Nelson Trout is a once-in-a-generation player, a true five-tool player who has consistently produced at the highest level of the game. Mike Trout has been ranked as the #1 position player in baseball every single year since 2013 by MLB Network, and the best player overall every season since 2013 by ESPN. But when you are considered the best in the game for close to a decade, you're constantly going to be challenged by other players on the rise trying to knock you off of your best in the game throne. Some of these players have had the unfortunate fate of being called out as better than Trout, whether that's by fans or analysts, and as you may have guessed by the title of this video, that's not always a great thing. So how does the curse work? The curse began back in the 2013 MLB season, aka the first year after Trout was ranked as the #1 player by MLB Network. Basically, whatever player/players who are mentioned as possibly being better than Mike Trout, they'll most likely go on to have a down year afterwards, or in some cases, completely fall apart. This can also sometimes take effect in the form of an injury-riddled season. So now that we know how the curse works, let's take a look at the players who have fallen victim to the dreaded Trout Curse. The first reported victim of the Trout Curse technically occurred before the 2013 season, and even before Trout made his 2012 MLB debut. Mike Trout was ranked as the #3 prospect in all of baseball heading into 2012 by MLB.com, behind Bryce Harper and the #1 ranked prospect Matt Moore. Matt Moore was constantly compared to Trout and Harper, and honestly all three of them could be found at the #1 spot on multiple analysts' top 100 prospect rankings. Bryce Harper would not be affected by the Trout Curse immediately, but Matt Moore, however, would go on to have a mediocre start to his career while Trout was in a heated race for the MVP crown with Miguel Cabrera. The Trout Curse can potentially be attributed to his entire career, in which Moore has put up a pedestrian 4.6 wins above replacement, and to this point an 88 career ERA+, a stat where 100 is considered league average. After bouncing around from 6 different teams in the last 10 MLB seasons, Matt Moore went from being considered one of the best prospects in MLB history to a random relief pitcher that plays for the Rangers with a Jolly Olive YouTube video made about him. He may be considered the first example of the Trout Curse, but he certainly wouldn't be the last. The next victim would be the first well-known player to take a hit following a comparison to Trout. Heading into the 2013 season, Justin Verlander was coming off of a dominant 2012 campaign in which he somehow lost the Cy Young voting to David Price, despite leading him in every single stat category except for ERA and posting almost 2 full wins better than him in wins above replacement. So needless to say, his #2 ranking just behind Trout was plenty justified, and some analysts even thought that Verlander might be better than Trout. Unfortunately for him, he would go down as the second victim of the Trout Curse. Now this was a fairly mild example of the Trout Curse since he still had an above-average season on the mound in 2013 and posted a 120 ERA+ over 218 innings pitched. These are solid numbers, I'm not going to lie, but keep in mind this is a pitcher who had posted a 161 ERA+ the year prior and a 171 ERA+ the year before that. Verlander ended up receiving 0 Cy Young votes in the 2013 season and was the start of the worst 2-year stretch of his entire career, including posting an 85 ERA+ in 2014, the only below-average season of his career. Now, Verlander eventually returned to his dominant form starting in 2015 with the Houston Astros, but this was definitely a good example of how the Trout Curse can take effect. As with any curses, they aren't going to work 100% of the time, and 2014 is a great example of that. Clayton Kershaw was ranked as the #2 player in MLB going into 2014 and ended up posting one of the greatest seasons in MLB history and ending the season with an ERA+ just under 200, a sub-2 ERA, and finishing as the unanimous National League Cy Young Award winner and a first-place finish in the MVP voting as well. As stated in the intro, this would lead to the only time that Trout would rank #2 in any reputable rankings for the next 6 MLB seasons. However, ESPN did keep Trout at the #1 spot. Now, Kershaw would go on to post an 0-2 record and an ERA above 7 in the postseason that year, helping the Dodgers miss out on the World Series once again. But was that because of the Trout Curse? Absolutely it was. It supports my narrative, so of course I gotta say it was because of the Trout Curse. But in all actuality, who knows? It was just a rough postseason for Kershaw. But hey, it supports my narrative, so we'll take it. Now, heading into the 2016 season, Bryce Harper was coming off one of the best seasons in MLB history, which led to this article being published by some dumbass named Jason Foster. This article was titled, "Bryce Harper is better than everyone else, even Mike Trout." This article was published just 2 weeks into the young 2016 season on April 18th. after Harper got off to a scorching hot start. How did he perform after this was published? Harper would go on to have the worst season of his entire MLB career, posting a WRC plus of just 101 and putting up 1.8 WAR. Harper went from one of the best seasons in MLB history and a hot start in 2016 to putting up the same amount of production as 2021's Steven Duggar and Andrew Benintendi. This was one of the most underrated examples of the Trout Curse and is often overlooked, but Harper's 2016 took a nosedive the exact day he was publicly called out as being better than Mike Trout. This is when we finally start seeing a pattern with the Trout Curse. 2017 and 2018 were years where Trout was locked in and widely accepted as the best player in baseball any day of the week, so there weren't any egregious articles posted about it. However, heading into the 2019 season, the curse would begin an absolutely dominant stretch. The next and possibly best example of the Trout Curse taking effect comes in the year 2019. 2019 was a true breakout season for fellow SoCal baseball player Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger had been very good in 2017 and 2018, but it ended up winning the 2019 NL MVP award with his impressive 47 home runs and 167 OPS plus, cementing him as one of the best in the game. This performance led to this article being published by a fan site called Dodgers Nation titled, "Has Cody Bellinger surpassed Mike Trout?" Spoiler alert, he had not. Cody Bellinger went on to have a very pedestrian 112 OPS at the plate in the shortened 2020 season and followed it up with a 45 OPS plus in 2021 in 95 games played. Both of these seasons came directly after the mere suggestion that he might be better than Mike Trout. Cody Bellinger was the first victim at the start of a dominant 3-year stretch of the Trout Curse. The next victim was possibly the most famous victim, would be the 2018 NL MVP Christian Yelich. Going into 2020, an infamous ESPN article was published featuring the coldest take in Major League Baseball history. Paul Hembeckidez, I think that's how you pronounce it, came out with an article heading into the 2020 season that was titled, "Christian Yelich, not Mike Trout, is MLB's best player," and the numbers show it. Once again, spoiler alert, the numbers, in fact, did not show it. Christian Yelich went on to rival Cody Bellinger's fall from grace, posting a terrible 2020 season where he batted just .205 with a 111 OPS plus, and followed it up with a 2021 where he had the first below-average offensive season of his entire career, posting a 99 OPS plus and hitting just 9 home runs in 117 games. Now, these 9 home runs in 117 games came after slugging 35-plus home runs the previous 2 full seasons. Christian Yelich and Cody Bellinger are the poster children of the Trout Curse. They absolutely fell off the face of the planet after once being thought of as possibly better than Trout, and it's still to be determined if they will ever get back to their MVP form. However, they both have had pretty good starts to the 2022 season. Now, the last examples of the Trout Curse came from a 2021 article featuring none other than legendary sports personality Jeff Passan. In the article entitled, "The 5 Players Who Could Pass Mike Trout as MLB's Best Player This Season," Jeff Passan suggests that Christian Yelich, Ronald Acuna Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., Mookie Betts, and Juan Soto are the most likely candidates to dethrone the Millville Meteor. Let's take a quick look at each of these players' 2021 seasons. As we already mentioned, Christian Yelich would have the worst offensive season of his career, batting .248 and posting a 99 OPS plus at the dish. Ronald Acuna Jr. suffered a season-ending injury after playing only 82 games, playing about half a season last year. Mookie Betts, for the first season in 7 years, did not receive a single MVP vote and posted his lowest single-season WAR total of his MLB career. Fernando Tatis Jr. led an amazing 2021 National League in home runs and most likely would have won the MVP if he hadn't missed over 30-plus games due to injury. He would, however, go on to miss the beginning of the 2022 season with a fractured wrist and has definitely had some injury issues in the last 2 years. And last but certainly not least, Juan Soto had the best season of his career and probably should have won NL MVP, but lost out to former teammate Bryce Harper in a very close race. Out of the 5 who were expected to dethrone Trout in the 2021 season, only 2 of them went on to live up to the hype, while the other 3 had, in some cases, massive shortcomings. This led to these players plummeting in the MLB rankings. 4 out of 5 of them did hold on to a top 10 spot, with the exception of Christian Yelich, who barely squeaked into the top 100 this season, coming in right at number 100. Trout did not rank as the number 1 player in baseball this season after an injury-riddled 2021 campaign. It is definitely possible he will never return to the number 1 spot, as he is entering his age 31 41 season and has struggled with injuries every year since 2018. He was outranked this season by teammate and face of baseball Shohei Ohtani, who has struggled to get things going offensively out the gate this season. Could Ohtani be the next victim of the Trout Curse? Only time will tell. Whether or not you believe in curses, it's clear to see that there's some correlation with these players being compared to Mike Trout and having a down year, or in some cases a down career afterwards. With so many great young players in the game of baseball, it's highly likely that Trout could be dethroned as the consensus #1 player soon, but whoever does it, keep in mind, they might be due for regression. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, please do me a favor by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, as only about 12% of you guys who watch my videos are subscribed to the channel. I post daily MLB videos and do tons of MLB Watch Party live streams, so if you like baseball, this is the place to be. Special shout out to my buddy Frank, who's helping me edit this video so I can continue to pump out daily content for you guys. Thanks again so much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.